Every pantheon has one, the god everyone else wants to lock away, the one who breaks things, lies, steals fire, sleeps with the wrong people, and somehow, when the world is actually ending, they're the only one who can fix it. In Norse myth, that's Loki. And they hate him. Genuinely, viscerally hate him. He gets blamed for everything: murdered gods, stolen treasures, that time the walls of Asgard almost didn't get built. Half the time he didn't even do it. Doesn't matter. It ends with him bound beneath the earth, a serpent positioned above his face so venom drips into his eyes for eternity. His wife has to sit there with a bowl, catching the poison. When she turns to empty it, the venom hits him and he writhes so hard it causes earthquakes. That's how much they wanted him to suffer. In Yoruba tradition, there's Elegba and his chaos on purpose. He starts fights between best friends over nothing. Makes you miss the meeting that would have changed your life. Opens doors that should stay closed. He doesn't do it out of malice. He does it because he's supposed to. And Coyote, across dozens of indigenous nations, he's the worst. Selfish, destructive, so horny it gets everyone in trouble, so stupid he dies in his own traps. Parents tell kids, don't be like Coyote. But here's the strange part. None of these figures ever get erased. Written out. Forgotten. Their own pantheons clearly wish they could, but they can't. Because somewhere deep in the logic of the universe, the trickster is weight-bearing. You need him. Even if you hate him. Here's what tricksters actually do. They attack the things that need attacking. Rigid hierarchies. False certainties. Systems that have calcified into something rotten. Loki doesn't just cause trouble for the fun of it. He exposes hypocrisy. At Aegir's feast, he forces every god in that hall to admit they've all been sleeping with each other, not because he's petty, but because they're sitting there pretending to be paragons of virtue while the whole divine order is built on lies. He makes them see what they refuse to look at. Anansi doesn't steal stories from the sky god because he's greedy. He steals them because knowledge was being hoarded. Kept away from the people who actually needed it, locked up in the heavens while humans suffered in ignorance below. Anansi breaks that gate open. Elegba stands at the crossroads because he's the one who reminds you there's always another choice, even when the priests, the kings, the elders insist there isn't. He's the voice that says you're not trapped, you're just pretending to be. And Coyote? In some stories, Coyote brings death into the world. Which sounds horrific until you stop and think about what immortality actually means. Nothing changes. Nothing ends. No room for anything new to grow. Death isn't the villain in that story. Stagnation is. Tricksters don't destroy for destruction's sake. They destroy so something Trar can take its place. Here's the thing nobody wants to admit. Every system, given enough time, starts serving itself instead of the people it was built for. Religion becomes dogma. Lore becomes oppression. Tradition becomes because I said so. The structures that were supposed to protect us turn into the very thing we need protection from. And that's where tricksters come in. They're not breaking things for fun. They're the immune system response to cultural calcification. They're what happens when some part of the collective unconscious knows it needs an escape valve before the whole thing explodes. Look at Norse myth. Ragnarok only happens after Loki is bound. The gods think they've solved their chaos problem by chaining him beneath the earth with serpent venom dripping on his face. And the moment they remove chaos entirely, the moment they think they've achieved perfect order, they guarantee apocalypse. Because systems that can't bend will always break. The trickster is the god of the third option. The one nobody wants to consider because it's too uncomfortable, too much like admitting we were wrong. They're the voice that says maybe the rules we're dying for aren't actually sacred, maybe they're just old. And maybe old isn't the same thing as right. Here's what actually matters. Tricksters commit the same crime across every culture. They steal from the gods and give to us. Prometheus steals fire and gets chained to a rock for eternity, an eagle tearing out his liver every single day, the liver growing back every night so the punishment never ends. That's what the gods do to him for giving humans fire. But we get technology, civilization, the ability to cook food, forge weapons, stop being prey. Worth it? He thought so. Loki pulls off something even better. He rigs the entire sacrificial system. Humans get the meat, the fat, the good parts. Gods get bones wrapped in shiny packaging. He literally makes sure we eat while the gods get the smoke and the theatre. Raven, in Pacific Northwest traditions, finds the sun, moon, and stars locked in boxes by a chief hoarding them in darkness. So Raven steals them. Just takes them. Breaks them open. That's why we have light. The whole sky exists because of theft. And Maui goes into the underworld and steals fire. He tricks gods into teaching him the secret of tattooing. He literally fishes up islands from the ocean floor with a magic hook. Everything humans need to survive, he takes from gods who weren't planning to share. The pattern is always the same. Gods hoard, tricksters steal, humans survive. And the gods never forgive them for it. Here's what happened when we lost the trickster. We forgot how to hold complexity. Christianity doesn't have a trickster figure. It has Satan, who's purely, flatly evil. And that flattening? That's part of why Christian theology has always struggled so hard with the problem of evil. Because real life doesn't work like that. Real disruption isn't always malicious. Real change isn't always pretty. But we didn't just lose the trickster in religion. Modern witchcraft sanitizes them too. Turns them into quirky chaos magic vibes, all glitter and mischief, like they're just fun little rule breakers. But that misses the point entirely. Tricksters are supposed to make you uncomfortable. They're supposed to wedge themselves into the crack in your worldview and pry it wider. We've built a world that worships order, efficiency, optimization, 5-year plans, productivity hacks, everything controlled, everything mapped. And we're miserable, burnt out, stuck in patterns we can't even see anymore because we've convinced ourselves they're just how things are. The trickster is the one who walks in and says, that rule you think is inevitable? It's not a law of physics. It's just an idea someone had once. The thing you're not allowed to question? That's exactly the thing you need to question. The path you're supposed to stay on? Maybe it's a trap. That's not chaos for chaos's sake. That's freedom. And we desperately need it back. Here's the thing about tricksters. You don't summon them. You recognize when one's already shown up. That disaster that forced you to pivot? That betrayal that finally revealed who someone really was? That joke that landed so sharp you couldn't laugh because it cut too close to something you've been avoiding? That was the trickster. They don't wait for permission. They show up when the system's gone stale, when you're so locked into your own script you've forgotten you're performing. Tricksters teach through humiliation, which is exactly why nobody wants to learn from them. We'll take the long, noble suffering, the dignified struggle. But humiliation? That's the ego realizing it was never as solid as it pretended to be. And that's the lesson. The walls you thought were load-bearing? Mostly decoration. So if you're stuck, genuinely stuck, not just uncomfortable, ask yourself, what rule am I obeying that I don't actually believe in? That's where the trickster lives. In the gap between what you're doing and what you know is true. And if you want to work with them consciously, offer them something they'd actually want. Tobacco for Coyote, rum for Elegba, or just your willingness to look like an idiot in service of the truth. They respect that more than any polished altar. The next time everything in your life feels too rigid, too stuck, too much like a system that's forgotten why it exists, look for the trickster. They're already there. They've been waiting for you to notice. Follow Blackfire Atelier. I'll see you in the shadows.